Warning, the following material is extremely disturbing. On Grave Matter, we try to be as accurate as possible and we collect information from many different sources. We don't condone or glorify murder, and we try to be as sensitive as possible to victims and their families while approaching a serious subject matter with a sense of humor. Listener discretion is advised.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome to episode 11 of The Grave Matter. It's Chris Lang and Jill Gentry at it again, making magic again. Coming to you from Bertram, Texas, in the middle of the night from Murder Studios, which I kind of just made up, but sounds really cool.
Yeah, I bet it exists already, but you know.
Hey, whatever. Trademark it, you know what I mean?
Someone's
going to hear this and be like, I guess they're not using that. It's all good. We got a great episode lined up for you tonight. We got two people to discuss. We will see where we get with it. So I am going to be discussing a killer by the name of William Lester Suff, a.k.a. Bill Suff, a.k.a. the Riverside Prostitute Killer, a.k.a. the Lake Elsinore Killer.
Jesus. I can't believe there was nothing with the word suffer. Like, that's totally missed opportunities. Like
on a play on words on his name,
yes.
Suff. They call me Mr. Suffer. I don't know. He did suffocate his victims.
Oh, shit. Looky there.
Mm-hmm. Which caused them suffering.
Yes.
Fuck a house, you know?
I feel like I just went somewhere else. Just staring at you.
Well, whatever.
Whatever.
Either way, nobody was that clever, and he was a terrible person.
Yeah.
Who are you discussing?
I like to refer to him, like a lot of these different killers, as like a cheese dick.
Okay.
Like really not...
The cheese dick killer?
Yeah.
Is that what he was?
Like not really someone you would consider a threat at all. And he kind of just...
Interesting.
His crimes were like a one-time, one-shot deal. And he was like super proud of himself.
So was he not a serial killer?
Not technically. He did have a higher body count. He had the numbers, but it was one event. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So his name is Ronald Jeffrey Prible.
Prible?
Prible, I guess, or Prible.
Prible sounds like a mean teacher.
It does.
Not Miss Prible. Like.
It does.
Jesus.
It's PR.
She's the worst.
Prible, so I guess it could be Prible, but I've only ever seen it printed. I tried to find like videos on
stories about Jesus they're not in the Bible. I mean, can you imagine if we called it that?
The Bible?
Better get your Bible.
I mean, if we called it Bible from the beginning, then people would be like, can you imagine if we called it Bible? Holy shit.
A Bible? What a fucking...
What a dork.
What are you going hunting with? Got my riffle.
Yeah.
Is that an assault riffle? Fuck. It's dangerous.
High caliber rifle.
All right. Who wants to go first this evening?
Whatever. You want to do rock, paper, scissors for it?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Fuck it. I'll go first.
Okay. Have at it. I was going to do rock because I forgot to make
I was going to do scissors.
I forgot
but none
to
of us were prepared. People...
Well, you went on 2. Like, where did you learn to count?
Well, I just flipped you off.
I know. You went 1, 2, bird finger, like, and I went 1, 2, 3, rock. Shit, I forgot what we were doing.
Okay, all right.
You go first, then.
I will, and I'm going to be talking about William Lester
Suff.
Suff. So
Schluff. That's a lovely word.
Mark, James, Robert, Essex. So William Lester Suff, a.k.a. Bill Suff, a.k.a. Riverside Prostitute Killer, a.k.a. the Lake Elsinore Killer. This guy was a Chair Force veteran.
I don't know what that is.
So about that, most people would call it the Air Force, except for anybody that's in the Air Force.
Okay.
So Chair Force, because all they do is sit on their ass. Anyways, let's move on. So at least 12.
Gotcha.
At least 12 killings that he was convicted of, right? I think we're all just jealous of the Air Force, honestly, especially like I was in the Marines in the Air Wing. So I was always on Air Force bases, but never got like the perks that they got. You know what I mean? They got like the nice shit.
So you were salty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
That's exactly how it went down. So he was a Chair Force veteran. At least 12 convicted killings, but probably about 22. These were mostly prostitutes between the years of 1989 and 1991. But that's what he was convicted of. But they go a lot further back, or at least a ways back.
Okay.
This gentleman is known for rape, strangulation, and torture and mutilation of his victims. He did some really, really fucked up shit, including killing one of his own children,
Yikes.
a 2-month-old baby girl. So it was hard, kind of going through that and researching that as a parent of a young girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how people kill their own kids like that.
Yeah. And it's weird. A forensic psychologist had done a profile on him, and he was saying that he had no attachments to anybody, to his family, to his friends, his kids or his parents at any point. Animals. He was completely detached from everything.
So I have a question for you as a parent, real quick. I meant to ask this.
For sure.
So
I'm sure I'm the expert.
Yeah, for real. Well, you have twice as many children as I do. So
That's true.
Do you? So I have this thing that happens when something I'm anxious about is coming up. Like I have nightmares about my kid involved. Like, so when we went on our cruise with the baby the first time. For months before that cruise, I had nightmares that he was going to fall off the ship and get kidnapped by locals, or like our little ferry would sink and I'd have to try to hold him above water while I drown myself. Like, and it's with damn near anything. When he started school,
and his name's Jack, so the Titanic images aren't really a help at this situation.
Yeah, I was scared shitless.
By the way, I will address your issue in a moment, but you did get that
we'll talk
right.
about that a little later.
We'll talk about that a little bit later back here in Texas. One thing I did want to point out, it is Jack and Jill. So that's really cool. Everyone loves that.
Yeah.
And Dallas with his out of the ordinary ass name.
Yeah.
So love you, bro. Anyways, no, but for real, that is, whatever I was saying.
Yeah. So do you do that or no?
Oh, so back to what you were saying. No, I don't personally.
Oh, so you don't love your children? Okay.
Got it. Right. No, but I think dreams are one of the most interesting parts of the human experience. You know what I mean? In my personal life, that kind of anxiety manifests in more like being awake, daydreaming about it. I'm like, oh shit, like what if?
Oh, I see
know
what
I mean?
you're. Yeah.
I still have those
You
concerns.
do that. You always do
I
it.
do it while I'm awake.
You even do it about ridiculous shit. Like, what if a car fell out of the sky right now and hit us? And I'm like,
I mean, that's a little far fetched. But I have seen
not
Harry
far.
Potter, and
you
that
said
bitch.
something like an hour ago, and I was like, what?
In Harry Potter, that bitch crashed right into the Whomping Willow.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay, so
I don't watch that.
well, maybe that's why you're not concerned about some shit that could go down.
I don't know. You said something like an hour ago. You were afraid of something happening, and I was like, that's just so
What if the dinosaurs weren't dead, but they were just running towards us right now, and they finally got here?
What if they like came back from being fossil fuels, and like all of our cars just exploded and dinosaurs were everywhere?
You never know. You never know.
Weirder things have happened.
You know, the older I get, the more I learn about life, the more I realize we don't know shit about shit. God only knows. You know what I mean?
Hey, but we know more shit than some people do, so that's what keeps me going.
Oh, speak for yourself there, Sherlock. I'm fucking clueless more than I need to be over here.
You know things. You know things that I don't know.
I drink and I know.
things.
I drink and I know things.
You do that, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't drink
that's
really.
true.
I still know some things. Dallas, you want to talk about somebody that knows things? Jesus
Hey, dude,
Christ.
it's ridiculous.
He knows all the things. He knows how to press my buttons too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
my buttons, baby.
that was just
Thank you.
yep.
I don't
Not a
know.
compliment.
I don't know where we were. Oh, so
Yeah, William Suff and the Chair Kings or whatever.
So William Suff, into his childhood, he was born August 20th of 1950 in a neighborhood in Los Angeles, right? His family was from Riverside, which is where most of this takes place, which is about 50 miles east of Los Angeles. It's really kind of like a more rural area. Like in the 1800s, it was known for citrus trees. It's Orange County, right? So
Okay.
that's why it's called Orange County. Quick, now you know, fact, whatever. What's that shit called? I don't know.
The
Fun
more you
fact.
know.
Fun fact. Let's just call it a fun fact. Quick fun fact. By 1870, half of all the citrus trees in California were in this one area.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I know a thing or two about citrus trees.
Okay. From Florida? Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, they definitely come into play in this story.
Okay.
It used to be an amazing place, and, you know, some of it was, I don't know, I've heard mixed things about Riverside. I got some friends from there. It's either great or it's not. And it kind of, you know, the beauty of the ranches gave way to industry, and crime started getting involved down off of University Avenue, the main strip there.
Yeah, when I think of Riverside, I've never seen it or anything, but I always hear about it in movies. So,
Yep.
like,
Mm-hmm.
like
Absolutely.
really crime-riddled movies.
Yeah, so it's there was like a big heroin epidemic back in the day, and that's where kind of a lot of this, I guess, crime came from, and where a lot of the prostitution that we're about to talk about a little bit later comes into play. So,
Drugs are just bad, okay?
mm-hmm. Yeah, for real. So it's mostly off of University Avenue. Into his childhood, because Suff lived here as a kid all the way through high school, right? So into his childhood, he was the eldest of 5 kids, but his dad left when he was very young. I mean, I guess they had 5 kids and then he left. Like, that takes at least some time. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But he left pretty early on in his life, to the point where by the time he was in high school, he was really like a father figure for the family. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you said he was the oldest? Or one of the oldest?
Yes, the oldest.
Okay.
He was the oldest of 5 kids that were all equally fucking crazy as he was.
Really?
The kids would often get in trouble, and this is fucking all of them, by the way, although he's the only one that turned out this bad.
That we know of?
But they would get in trouble for setting fires, like arson, and killing animals.
I bet the neighbors loved the stuff. Like, here comes these little Suff shits again, getting into nonsense.
No kidding. Yeah, so they were killing cats and dogs and setting things on fire. So, not really good. The mother was very, very cold. She was not somebody that nurtured any of them. So, I think the forensic psychologist had said that a lot of that detachment had originated probably from this situation, his dad leaving and his mom being a cold bitch.
Well, maybe she should have stopped at, like, I don't know, 1 child?
Yeah, no kidding.
And then she would have only had a murderer to take the blame for.
You never know. Yeah, he was the oldest, so, or would it have even happened is even, you know, is another way to look at that.
Yeah, that's weird.
He had trouble connecting, though, with everybody. In school, he was not, I think it conflicted for him, because in school, he was a regular-ass dude. He was in the marching band. He had regular-ass grades. He tried to make friends, but everyone was like, "You're boring." Like, nobody was interested. You know what I mean?
Bummer.
Yeah, so no friends. Had this kind of power trip, being the quote-unquote father figure at home, and
Something to be proud of.
just a weird situation. You know what I mean?
I'm the father figure of all these badass kids.
Right. So he decides he wants to get out of there. He's about to graduate high school, and he's at a football game. This has got to be like right before graduation. He meets a girl. He's very quiet, like not very outspoken. He meets a girl who's like, "Oh, that guy's cute." And he was a handsome dude. You know what I mean? He looked like innocent, like a regular kid. And her name's Terrell. She gives him her phone number, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm leaving. I'm joining the Air Force. So I'm going to San Antonio, Texas to go to boot camp." And then she's like, "All right, well, maybe we can write each other or whatever." They keep in contact. Well, they keep in contact. I guess they start really talking or whatever. And then she hits him up with some crazy ass news as he's in San Antonio. And she's like, "Hey, we can't talk anymore. I got raped and I'm pregnant."
That's weird.
Yeah, for sure. I'm telling you, the shit that, it is weird.
It's super weird that she'd be like, "Hey, we have to not communicate with each other anymore because of something that's not even."
Yeah,
right."
that kind of was like a red flag to me too. But I don't want to judge the wrong situation. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy. Anyways, he responds and he's like, "Don't worry. We'll stay together. I'll help raise the kid as our own." Like,
Yeah, because he's got such a good track record with that. I've already had 4 kids.
No. So he raises
his brothers and sisters.
I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. I think he was like trying to be serious. And then these feelings resurfaced in him. So after the baby was born, so she was still in California, Taro, and she had the baby in California. He goes out there and it gets super real to him. And then he comes up with this crazy story. Taro was being interviewed, right? So I watched this interview with her and she was like, he told me that we can't bring the baby back to Texas because he told his chain of command that it died. And she was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh, and by the way, they had legally gotten married, even though it was just a quick thing in front of a judge while he was on leave. So they were married at this point. They got married in December of 1969. So this was right after it. And she's like, what have I done? They work out a situation to where his parents adopt the kid, right?
All because he bullshitted? Like, that's so weird.
I'm not sure what he told her. If he was like, I'm going to be in trouble, like my career's going to end. I'm sure he was a very manipulative individual. I feel like he would work some kind of something on that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he tried to convince her somehow. And she was young. So he joined, he was 17, 18. She was like 15, 16 at the time. You know what I mean? So
it's hard to understand what his motivation would have been to tell them the child died anyway. Like,
I'm not sure. I thought about that as well. And that's interesting. It's like, what would cause that? Did he all of a sudden feel a different type of way?
that's freaking weird.
So
But these
they
people are
did
weird.
stay together for a while. He became a lot more controlling, right? And scary. The one event that set her off is they had a kitten, like a little cat. And in case you didn't know what a kitten was, it's like a cat but a baby.
Trigger warning. It's got fur, whiskers.
It's got fur.
I
Sometimes
have a bad feeling that something bad's going to happen to this cat. So if that's going to bother you, you should probably like think of unicorn farts or something, whatever you
right.
do.
Unfortunately, the cat wouldn't stop meowing, and he wasn't having that shit.
Yeah, we had one like that. I wasn't having that shit either.
Okay, well, so
I didn't kill it or anything. But
Oh, okay. So he did.
I had a feeling that's where this was going.
Yeah, he had a BB gun and he shot the cat in the head and it died. And then he went back to bed. And the wife was laying there in bed like, what the fuck? Okay, it's real. This is real. Like, I've done fucked up, Ron. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so she starts freaking out, right? She catches him slapping the baby one time, like in the face. Like, it wasn't like a total abuse at that point, but like it caught her eye. Like, she was like, why would someone do that? Even if it was soft or like, you know what I mean? It was just, it really weirded her out, especially with knowing already what she knew about him. And so she basically called him out on it. And she said the look that he gave her was like, bitch, you're next. Like, without even, just with his eyes, you know what I mean?
He was slapping her baby.
Basically, yeah.
He would have not made it to the first prostitution killing because I had no. Mm-mm.
So in 1973, check this shit out. Pregnant again. And she said the sex life was very controlling. It was very,
As you would expect.
yeah, she said it was not enjoyable by any means.
Wait. It's supposed to be? I'm just playing.
Oh, damn. So, 1973, new baby. She gets pregnant again. It's a baby girl this time. Her name is Dejanay, right?
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. At 2 months old, Taro gets a phone call, and it's him at the house. And she's working. He's the stay-at-home father, which is obviously the solution, right? And he says, she's not breathing. The baby's not breathing. Come home now. You got to get here.
What the fuck you calling me for? Call the,
And so she had
911?
assumed that he already did. So she gets to the house, goes in the bedroom, and she's like, where's the fucking ambulance? And he's like, oh, I haven't called one. And she's like, what the fucking fuck? Right? Like anybody would be.
Yeah.
They're unable to revive the baby.
Well, yeah, because he waited 75 hours to call.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it had to be like 35 minutes or something. You know
He
what I mean?
probably waited longer than that before he even called her.
And this is in Fort Worth, by the way. So he had gotten out of the military, and the wife said that was weird as hell too. Like, she doesn't know what kind of discharge he got. That it was like kind of hush hush, and it was like just one day he was like, all right, we're done, and like left.
What?
And yeah, so that's super shady. You know what I mean?
A little bit.
And the Air Force doesn't put up with that weird shit. Let me tell you right now. They're very strict on their standards. He was an aide in a hospital and had a very illustrious
Boring, yeah.
Career. So they were unable to resuscitate his daughter. And during the autopsy, the doctors determined, and this is tough to hear, that her liver was ruptured by a punch to the gut.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He was immediately arrested. They were both immediately arrested. And initially, because of the testimony that she gave about the cat and the other stuff, they were like, bitch, you should have known. And they both received 70 years in prison.
Yeah, I mean, she should have known.
She should have known.
I don't know if she deserves the exact same punishment he got, but...
So there was an appeal, and it was overturned for her. She was at work, you know what I mean? She should have known, but it's not punishable by prison time, you know what I mean? His was definitely upheld.
Yeah.
So he was sentenced to 70 years in prison at that time. This is in 1974, and we haven't even gotten to the serial killings yet, have we?
Yeah, and we haven't been 70 years either, so...
Right, so in case you're wondering why, it's because he was released 10 years later, in 1984, for good behavior. He was out on parole after killing his own 2-month-old daughter. That shit is crazy to me.
It makes my blood boil. Like,
for real.
I can't imagine injuring a 2-month-old helpless baby.
And guess what? 22 others are about to get the same shit. You know what I mean? We all pretty much know that it's him that was responsible for all of them, but there's only proof on 12 of them. So 1984, only 10 years later, he gets out. They're like, stay here. He goes back to California. I guess he didn't have to report to anybody. I don't fucking know how that works. Texas, what's up?
It must have been the same Air Force that was handling his parole. I mean,
I don't know.
You're just like, William who?
He moves back to Riverside, and he seemingly turns his life around. He was released in February of 84. He stayed there for a while. October of 84, he's back in California. And apparently he I don't want to say turns his life around, but what he does do is he acts like none of it ever happened. Kind of like picks up where he left off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He kind of starts bouncing from job to job, but he's a model citizen. And he's taking like these little weird jobs, like warehouse jobs and stuff like that. But he's a model citizen. He winds up landing a job with the Riverside County Warehouse, which is basically where the city keeps all their furniture and all that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He's a super nice guy. He even wins a chili cook-off, which later they said there were body parts in there.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
A female breast, to be specific.
I wonder, did he won the cook-off?
He won it. He got first place.
Ooh, that's some good booby.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Is that like... that's fucking weird, right?
Imagine being like, is that a nipple?
Is that a titty? Bro, is there titties in your chili? Like, what a weird question.
Is that what gives it that zip?
You never know. He won. He was a friendly, a very helpful guy, very nice guy. There was they started doing this rideshare thing because the city was kind of starting to move into the green movement. You know, California was like first with that shit. And he had this like silver Mitsubishi van, which looked straight out of fucking Star Wars. And he was literally the fucking poster boy for the rideshare program. And it was a picture of him on the poster in front of his van with his arm on his hip. And the caption was like, "Take a ride with Bill." And I'm like, yo, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm still hung up on the chili, though. If we're being honest. Like, I want to know who judged the chili contest. I want to know if they were like, damn, there's boobies in that? Like, that's some good-ass chili, though. I think I could probably be a cannibal.
Is that? Oh, man, that's crazy.
You got any thigh bacon or anything?
I'd probably put it in a blender or something, you know? Ugh. Thigh bacon would probably work better.
The other white meat.
Thigh bacon chili.
It sounds like a sorority.
I'm part of thigh bacon chili. Oh my god. That's dumb.
We're having a party over at thigh bacon chili.
Oh my god. Thigh bacon chili. Oh man.
I wonder what those characters look like. The Roman characters for that.
For thigh bacon chili? I don't know. Might be more like hieroglyphics at that point. So the year is let's fast forward a little bit. Year is 1990. He's 40 years old. Good old Billy Suff. He marries again. By this time, obviously, he's divorced with his other wife.
He's such a catch, though.
For killing his daughter. He marries an 18-year-old girl. at the age of 40. And their relationship, as I like to put it, is extremely one-sided. He is more manipulative than he's ever been from the fucking get-go. Super dominant. Doesn't let her ask questions to the point where, like, and I'll talk about this in a second. He starts living his, like, second double life. And he'll come home at, like, 2 or 3 in the morning. And she knows better than to ask where he's been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thunder rolls.
I see what you did there.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got all Garth on that shit.
So, and talking about his double life, even though he was a very happy chili cook-off, ride-sharing citizen, you know what I mean? He had this other side to him, obviously, but it really developed into like 2 personalities at this point. And what he would do is he would go out at night and he would find prostitutes, have sex with them, whatever, and then during the day he would complain about the prostitute problem in the city. He became like very publicly vocal with it, and he was like, "We gotta clean up these damn streets." It reminds me of Goldie Wilson and Back to the Future. Good, you can start by sweeping the floor. You know what I mean? But he was like,
imagine these prostitutes watching TV or whatever, being like, "This motherfucker, like you just hang." I was just in that silver van like 4.5 hours ago, and here you are talking shit.
Oh yeah, because it gets crazy. Because I mean, they started noticing, obviously, you know what I mean. But he did take up prostitution as like a personal social justice issue, which is really weird. And really, at this point, the investigation started heating up as these girls, because he was not only using their services, but he was killing them too, apparently, right? So the investigation started heating up after 2 particular killings, right? So obviously there were over 12 victims, most likely 22 by him, but these 2 is what really did it. So 27-year-old Susan Sternfield, this is December of 1990. She was found naked and posed with her legs open, like very sexually, next to a dumpster. Okay.
Got it.
This matched somebody right before her that was found, which is Cheryl Coker. And she was also found. She was found in a dumpster, but she was naked, posed with her legs open, right? So at this point, it seemed like he was kind of refining his style, because before that, the very first one was in October of 1986, and then December of 1986.
I was born in October of 86.
No shit.
What day does it say?
I don't remember.
Bummer.
Yeah. So October of 86, there was someone found, and then in December of 86, and then December of 87, May of 87, there were 2 in January of 89. And by the way, one of those ones in 1989 in January, he was the primary suspect of, but they didn't have enough evidence to pursue, right? So that's that bullshit. June of 1989, November of 89, December of 89, and January and February of 1990, right?
Right.
Those were all the killings before the police realized it was a serial killer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Y'all quick.
You know what I mean? So at this point, he's pretty much feeling invincible. He's kind of honed his style. Some of these girls back in the day, in like the 86 murders, were found in a similar kind of circumstance, but not quite as, the pattern wasn't quite as detectable, I suppose. After Cheryl and Susan, those cases were compared, and they were pretty much exactly the same. There was a task force formed, right? With surrounding areas and forces. So Riverside County is in charge of the investigation. So they move into a new office. I mean, it's a big task force they assemble, right? They move into a new office, and they're like, hey, we need furniture for our new office. So where do they go? The Riverside County warehouse to get there for their logistical needs, right? So, and they deal directly with the killer that they're looking for. This is some Dexter shit if I have ever seen it. You know what I mean? So he provides them with desks and chairs, interfaces with the detectives, kind of befriends them a little bit. There was one part during this entire thing that where he was walking with 2 detectives and their pagers go off. And he's like, hey, did you guys find another body? And they were like, anyways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mind your business.
You know what I mean? So that's where the task force was formed. The next person after the task force is formed to die is Carol Lynn Miller. I watched a documentary with her son in it, which is so fucked up. His name is Shannon, which is also fucked up. But sorry.
I know some male Shannons.
Yeah. There's I think Blue October or no.
You're thinking of
Jared Leto.
Good Charlotte?
No, Jared Leto's brother or some shit from what band is Jared Leto in? 30 Seconds to Mars.
I don't know.
Yeah, one of those guys' name is Shannon. Anyways, because that's relevant as fuck. Mm-hmm. So the thing is the interview was so sad, you know. And he's a grown man now, but it was very sad. She was the one that was killed. There was a partially eaten grapefruit found next to her body, and that sounds a little reminiscent of Angel Resendez.
Yeah, but who the fuck eats grapefruit? I mean, unless you... I'm sorry. It's awful.
Yeah.
Roll that shit in some sugar and we'll talk, but...
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
You want to spend your whole morning looking like this sour shit? Why don't you just eat a pile of lemons? I know they're good for you, but, I mean, whatever.
Well... I mean,
so is exercising, so, you know.
This was the least of his worries. He was found in a citrus field. I wonder if that was part of the... You know what I mean? I don't know.
I don't know either. It's weird.
One victim that was after this had a light bulb inserted into her vagina. They found victims... Jesus. Yeah, they found victims with their eyes wide open, their mouths open, and shit like stuffed down their throats.
Do you think they're piggy banks? What the fuck?
Oh my God.
This is weird. Like, look at my human satchel.
For real, this is. I mean, he did some weird shit. I've never heard of that.
A light bulb that takes some precision. Like,
yeah, does it? I don't know.
I don't know either. But I mean, I have a hard enough time putting them into light bulb sockets without breaking them. So, can you imagine them like? No.
Yeah, it was intact. So,
well, hell.
A big turn in the case happens during one of the next victims. Her name was Kelly Hammond. She was picked up, and a prostitute friend of hers was like across the street or down the street and saw the shit go down. And she was able to say it was a white male with glasses. This is what he looked like. This is his build. He was in his probably 40s.
He was in a ride-share van.
He was in a ride-sharing silver Mitsubishi van. She identified the vehicle. And they had something to go off of, right? So... At that point, they had determined that they were confident that they had determined enough facts to build a profile, right? So they were like, well, he only kills white girls, right?
So he's probably white.
Right. Well, as soon as they shared that information, a black prostitute turned up dead. And then they kind of looked at it like, that's weird. Obviously, he's watching us. He's reading the papers. He's closer to the case than one may think. And sure enough, he's like supplying their fucking desks and everything, right? One of the next girls is Eleanor Casares, and she was found later, but the autopsy determined that she was dumped in the middle of the day, which, I mean, he was just getting bolder and bolder and bolder, right? That was 2 days before Christmas, by the way, which is pretty terrible.
Yep.
Both of her breasts were cut completely off and thrown from the body, which is really weird.
He didn't make an omelet with them?
No, he didn't. The thing about the Eleanor case is this. There was a detective. Her name was Christine something, but she was because that helps. So there's a lot half-ass fact for you.
Her name was Christine. You could have stopped at that.
Christine something. I was trying to remember it, but I couldn't. But she is one of them. She's basically retired now, but they got her for one of the documentaries, and she walks through this whole thing. The Eleanor case was interesting because this detective had worked Vice. Her name was Detective Morgan.
No shit.
No. It was just Christine, apparently.
Okay.
She had worked Vice, and she was friends with this prostitute, Eleanor. Like, they were pretty close. Like, they had kind of developed a relationship over time. And she got super, like, personally involved in the case because she was one of the ones that was on the scene to discover her body. So they determined at that scene of the crime that there were 4 different tires on the vehicle. They didn't know what kind of vehicle it was at that point, but they knew there were 4 different tires. And they're like, who the fuck has 4 different tires? Each tire was different, right?
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, and that's what they thought. And they were like, well, if we find some dude with 4 tires, it's probably that motherfucker, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like even the worst hoopties in the world still, you know.
And And keep in mind, they had an idea that it might be a silver van because of the description that was given from her friend, right?
So they're just looking at silver vans and looking at their tire treads.
So she says, she puts out like a bulletin to the patrol officers, and she's like, hey, if you stop anybody meeting this description, fucking hit me up. Immediately, like while they're pulled over.
That's a pretty big calling card or whatever. A pretty big piece of evidence to leave.
Yeah, you're not kidding. But he didn't care, obviously, if, Exhibit A, grapefruit,
Yeah.
So she took a personal interest in that case and instructed the patrol officers to alert her if anybody was pulled over matching that description. Sure enough, not too long later, there is a car that's pulled over for doing an illegal U-turn. It is a silver van with a middle-aged white male in it, and the officer's like, oh. And so
Call Christine real quick.
He calls Christine, Detective Christine, right, immediately. And she's like, check the fucking tires, because he didn't know. And she's like, what's the tire? What brand is the tire on the right side? And on the driver's side. And he's like, Michelin. And then she's like, what about the other side? And he's like, Firestone. And she's like, arrest him. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So
yeah. Don't let him go.
She says, I'm on the way. And she gets there and looks at him. And he's like the nicest guy ever, super unsuspecting. She was
Baby
like,
killer.
I don't fucking know if this is the right dude. They had gotten a tip earlier in the investigation, the task force, that it was actually a trucker up in Wisconsin. And they followed the shit out of that tip. They were so confident that that was accurate that the task force went to Wisconsin. And he killed someone else when they were gone. He was like, no, it's me, guys. Like he was fucking with him, you know what I mean?
Like, whoops.
Yeah.
Go back to Texas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But
or wherever.
They couldn't believe that it was this dude after all that bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was arrested on the spot by her. Or who, I don't know who the arresting officer was, but she was the one that said do it. He claimed innocence the entire time, but they obviously got a search warrant for his house. And I mean, the evidence was overwhelming. There was a kind of an army green blanket, and the fibers were found at all the crime scenes. That did it in. That was actually found in his car with some rope on top of it in the van when he got pulled over. In his house, they found personal items belonging to the victims, jewelry and shit like that, a Gucci bag, things like that, you know what I mean, that he had gifted his 18-year-old wife.
Oh, criminy.
My dog will probably do it for a Louis belt. So,
I was reading something on another guy earlier, and that's how they caught him too, is he was in Austin area, and he had a burnt orange blanket in the back of his car, and the fibers from that blanket were on a bunch of the bodies.
There's so many burnt orange blankets in motherfucking Austin.
Yeah. I mean, I think we probably have one.
I got burnt orange hairs. You know what I'm saying?
This is true.
That's why I can't kill anybody, because they're going to match that shit. They're going to be like, well, that's obviously Christopher.
That's why I always got to bring you sunscreen, because you get burnt orange skin too.
Yep, I sure do. It's certainly my color.
Got to spray you down with banana.
Moving on. So
Banana sunscreen.
he was arrested. Check this shit out, Jillian. Stop talking about my goddamn sensitive skin. He was arrested in 1992. He wasn't charged until 1995 so they charged him with something. They held him for 3 fucking years, and then they built a case against him.
So he just sat in jail for 3 years, and they were like, "We think he's."
I don't know what they charged him with. You know what I mean? If it was a parole violation, they got him on.
It wasn't a fucking U-turn.
3 strikes, California don't play. You know what I mean? No, so he sat there until they built the entire case. The DA charged him with 12 murders at one time.
Well, clearly they had the information that he killed his daughter, right?
Yeah, so that's my question. Was it maybe they were able to keep him on a parole violation because he wasn't supposed to leave Texas? You know what I mean?
There you go. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
August of 1995, the trial comes to a conclusion. This is crazy because he maintained his innocence the whole time, and I listened to a clip from the trial, and he sounds innocent. He's like, I know that these things have been said about me, but I'm not that person. I would never do these types of things. Like, he maintained his innocence the whole time. He's like, ask anybody, I'm begging you. I am a friendly person. I am a law-abiding citizen. Like, you know what I mean?
Baby killer.
Yeah, you're a goddamn baby killer. And everyone knows it. So he's obviously guilty, but he was maintaining his innocence the whole time. And it was weird because it sounded legit, but we know he's guilty. You know what I mean? So that brings up a lot of questions. He was found guilty of all 12 pretty quickly. And not only that, because every single case was capital murder, he received 12 death sentences. In 1995, And guess who's still alive?
William Suff.
Good old Billy Suff is still in San Quentin prison to this day.
Did they overturn
on death row.
Okay. So
No, he's still on death row.
They're just like, hey, maybe he'll die on his own.
I don't know. That's a long ass time. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I mean, I think in most of the death cases we're looking at, it's usually 7 or 8 years, but.
Which is still a pretty lengthy amount of time.
Mm-hmm. We're going on, 25 years? So.
Damn it, Bobby. Well, that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah. So there he is in San Quentin prison in California, and that's where he is to this day. So that is the story of good old Billy Suff and all of the people he killed, including his own daughter.
I learned something.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. I definitely wanted to hear about that one. So my dude, Ronald Jeffrey Prible.
Ronald Jeffrey McDonald.
Such a dipshit.
Yeah.
And you'll see throughout this journey how much of a dipshit he is. Like, what his motivation was for this shit.
What'd you call him earlier? A cheese dick?
Yes.
Okay.
If ever there was one.
Not Mr. Prible.
Probably even like a Velveeta cheese dick. Like, not even real cheese. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what a dip shit.
No artificial preservatives, just the real ones.
Yeah. So Prible was charged with breaking into his best friend's / business partner's house and...
Jimmy. I'm just kidding.
Whoa. It got dark. Let me know if you're okay, woo. So anyway, April 24th of 1999. So he breaks into his partner and his best friend's house, same guy, Steve Herrera.
Where is this?
This is in Houston.
Oh, shit. H-Town, what up? Double cup
Right in our own
lean, throw it
backyard.
down. Yeah, for real.
That was a lot. That was extra. So he broke into their house, and so he was charged with killing his best friend, his girlfriend, and their 3 kids.
God damn.
3 daughters. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. He wasn't a serial killer, but he had more than one under his belt.
Yeah, the FBI defines it as like taking a break, a cooling off period between. So
basically what happened was Steve, his best friend, was shot at the base of his skull.
Okay.
And Nilda, which was Steve's girlfriend, she was shot as well.
Hey, rest in peace, but that's a crazy ass name.
Yeah, she was shot in the neck, I believe. Steve was found on the floor of the garage, like he was heading in towards the house. And Nilda was found on the front, in the living room on the sofa. Okay?
Oh, damn. Okay.
They had 2 7-year-old daughters. They weren't twins. They were both from different relationships. So Nilda had a 7-year-old daughter, and Steve had a 7-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And they had a 22-month-old daughter named Jade together. Yeah. So the 2 daughters...
Her name was Jade. Mm-hmm. And my guy was born on August 20th, which is Jade's birthday.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Thinking about you, Jade.
I know, right? What type of subconscious shit?
Right? So the 2 7-year-olds were found in an upstairs bedroom, and the 22-month-old was found in the master bedroom. So what happened was, basically, the initial motive for this was revenge. Prible and Steve were like business partners.
Yeah.
This is a really stupid, twisted, weird story, but they were business partners and partners in crime.
They were business partners and partners in crime?
Yes, this is why it's so confusing. So Prible and Steve allegedly robbed banks. They robbed 6 banks. And their motivation for doing so...
Wait. Were the girls found shot too?
No, they weren't. They died of smoke inhalation.
Okay, gotcha.
Because he set fire. He set fire to
the body.
Nilda. Yeah.
To the body on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. So Steve and Prible robbed 6 banks together, allegedly.
Huh.
Now, their motivation for this was... It's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. So they robbed banks, and then they took that money and they bought cocaine and all kinds of drugs, and then they resold them. They marked them up and resold them like they were tamales. I don't know. And they also stole drugs and sold them. And their motivation for doing that was because they wanted to open a strip club, a topless bar. All this shit, all these crimes they committed because they wanted to open a titty bar. Like,
okay.
It seems like there might have been some shorter, a small business loan.
Just some routes with like a less of a headache.
I mean, one bank robbery.
You can call it legal Zoom. You know what I mean?
It's just unbelievable that this all happened because they wanted to open a topless bar. You know what I mean? Like, wow, that's stupid.
That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they had like plans with it. You know what I mean? I feel like that's rare. It's not like they had business plans with it. That's weird.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you're not having a problem with doing the drug operation, and they just wanted to open their own place to party? I don't understand. But you know, they're not the most brilliant people we're dealing with here. The motive was supposedly that Prible murdered Steve because Steve had stolen $250,000 of their drug money savings for their titty bar. So,
damn.
Yeah. So they made that much. Why didn't they just open their stupid bar? I mean, it can't. I mean, you know what I mean?
I don't know. Maybe they were saving up $1 million.
I don't know.
Maybe they had like 600.
It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard of in my life, which is saying a lot. So. During the trial of these murders, Steve's brother Edward said that he and Steve were both drug dealers too.
Just a whole drug dealing family.
Yeah, I mean, party down. They they would steal drugs and they would buy them and they would mark them up and resell them. Yeah. And I think probably the defense tried to use that as like, oh, maybe somebody else wanted Steve dead other than Prible. You know what I mean? Like, because they were also drug dealers on the side. So
I mean, yeah, that seems like a pretty solid path to take, you know?
So Edward testified that Prible had mentioned to him one night that him and Steve were planning on opening this topless bar. And Edward was like, in court, he's like, he had never said anything about that to me. I'm his brother. I'm like closest to him out of anybody. And he's never mentioned that he wanted to open a business with this guy. So
interesting.
He said at another point when him and Prible were alone that Prible had pulled out like a large wad of cash out of his pocket and was just like counting it, like trying to show off kind of, you know, like low-key show off or whatever. So attention was first brought to Ronald Prible because witnesses claimed that he was the last one seen with the victims alive. On the night
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Every fucking time.
Yep.
That's what got my guy.
And it was a small window too, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like he was seen with them the 2 days prior or something. It was like really close to the murders. So on the night of the murders, Steve, Ronald Prible, and Steve's brother-in-law Victor were in the garage. They had at Steve's house playing pool, drinking beer, whatever. And
garage hanging.
Yeah, Victor testified that he overheard Steve and Prible talking about trying to get a hold of Edward and getting some cocaine from him. At about 12:30, they decided to go to Rick's Cabaret nightclub. So they all piled into Victor's car and closed the garage and took off. They were at the bar for probably an hour and a half or so, and they headed home. On the way back to Steve's house, Prible used Steve's phone to call Edward, or to page him or whatever.
Okay.
This is all Victor's testimony. He said when they got back to the house, they stood outside in front of the garage. The garage door was open. They stood out there for a few hours, and Victor said that Steve and Ronald were like just smoking weed and chatting and talking, whatever.
Smoking and joking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Victor said that at about 3:30 he decided to go home and he went straight to bed. So he was the last one to see them alive, other than Prible, and Prible was there. So
yeah.
So Victor went home, pussed out about 3:30, left everybody else partying.
Yep. Victor.
So the next day, 6:00 in the morning, the neighbor came out of his house and he heard like loud pounding music, and he's like, "What the hell?" And he looks over at Steve and Nilda's house, and he's like, he sees smoke like rolling out from under the garage door. And so he like runs over there and he rings the doorbell, and nobody answers. And so he's like, "Shit." And so he goes around to the side of the house where the garage is, and there's like a door that goes into the garage on the side.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he said that the door felt hot, and he kicked it open, and Steve was laying there in a pool of his own blood. And so the neighbor ran back home and called 911. So they found Steve laying in the garage. He had been shot at the base of his skull in the back. Like
yeah.
He was, I think I read it was like
after party time.
18 inches away, maybe. Like somebody shot him like pretty close, you know?
Yeah.
And then they found Nilda was laying on the couch in the living room, and she was wearing only a t-shirt. She didn't have anything else on, and she was shot in the neck. And he had set her on fire. And so, like, the fire wasn't like a blaze. It was basically smoldering out at that point.
Mm-hmm. But
there was definitely, like, separate spots where he had set her on fire. Like, he sprayed like gasoline and stuff on her, and then he set her in different places to make sure that she was
okay.
Yeah. So
and it still didn't work.
It didn't burn her body away, but she was charred up and she was dead.
Yeah, well.
And it probably just would have destroyed any kind of like forensic evidence. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when they went upstairs, they found the 2 7-year-old girls in their room, and they found the baby in
That's
the
terrible.
master bedroom. And their faces and everything was covered in like soot. And like when they did the autopsies and stuff, they had their throats and their mouths were burned all the way from like the very tips of their tongue all the way down to like the...
So it was a big fire.
It started out that way, but the smoke traveled upstairs and they basically died in their sleep, I hope.
Yeah.
It didn't really say like if they were in bed or whatever, but it said they were in their rooms.
Man, that's tough.
Mm-hmm. Now the neighbor had told the police, like, I saw these guys over there last night, and he said, you know, I saw this car, and they found out it was Victor's car, and they said, you know, I saw this dude, excuse me, and they found out it was Ronald Prible. And so they, about 8 hours after the bodies were found, the police went to Prible's house to question him, and he agreed to come down to the police station. They questioned him. They noted like his clothes didn't smell like smoke. His shoes didn't have any blood on them. Like he didn't look like he had any kind of physical evidence he was there. And he agreed to take like nude photos so that they could look at his body to see if there was any like burn marks or bruises or anything suspicious. He agreed to it. Towards the end of that part of the interview, one of the cops finally dropped the bomb and was like, so, is there any reason why we would find your DNA on Nilda? And he was like, well, yeah, me and her were screwing around. We were having an affair behind Steve's back. Because they found semen, DNA, whatever, orally, vaginally, anally, everything. Like, yeah. So they were like, really? So explain that. And he said, well, the day of the murders, they were all hanging out in the garage, and he had gone inside, and he and Nilda had been like flirting and fooling around, but they had never had sex yet. And he said that he went inside to get a drink or something or go to the bathroom, and him and Nilda ran upstairs to the upstairs bathroom, the master bathroom, and locked themselves in there and had all 3 types of those sex acts happen.
Wow. While
her husband was down, or her boyfriend was down in the garage waiting for him to come back. So basically, he was arrested. And
so they didn't believe him or anything. They were like, nah, no way.
There was too much evidence between him being the last person to be seen with them, and he had beef with him, and his DNA was all over Nilda or whatever. So they arrested him, and they put him in a holding cell or whatever they do. I'm not really sure how that works.
Yeah.
But they went to court, and in court, when he told everybody that he had had an affair with Nilda, everybody was like, bullshit.
Really?
Lying ass fool. Nobody believed. So like she had friends that were there that took the stand that actually said that 2 different friends had said she hates this guy. Like she hated his guts. Like she called him creepy, and she hated the fact that he was around. She wished he didn't come around. She didn't like him around her kids. She didn't want him around the house. Like he was a bad influence.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
That sounds a little more like the truth.
Right, yeah. And she was frustrated that he was around so much. Mm-hmm. And then there were testimonies from Prible's previous cellmates, I guess. That's what it was. He got arrested for the bank robberies. Oh. So when he was in jail for the bank robberies, waiting for his trial for these murders, he bragged to his cellmates about the murders. And he said, one of them quoted him saying, anybody that can go into a house and take out a whole family and get out without being seen is a bad motherfucker, and I'm that bad motherfucker.
Wow.
So there's been some speculation about whether he's actually guilty or not. I personally believe probably.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound to me like she would have entered a, relationship with this guy.
Yeah.
Right under her husband's nose,
Definitely not. So he was found guilty, though?
He was found guilty. But there was speculation that the prisoners or whatever, the narcs or whatever, had been coerced or trained. What am I looking for? What is the word? They were...
Coerced sounds good.
Okay, yeah. Because his defense team actually has evidence that one of the people that ratted him out from prison hadn't even met him at that point. You know what I mean?
That's kind of okay. That's pretty legit.
Yeah, so they think
Doubt.
the police kind of like trained them to what to say.
Okay.
And a lot of people
Get more
argue.
commissary.
You're right, exactly. Or shortened sentences is what they were offering.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And a lot of the evidence against him was circumstantial. So there's people that think he's innocent. I think no, he's guilty.
Seems like probably the type to do it.
Yeah,
Huh?
he seems like a pretty shitty individual from the jump, so it wouldn't surprise me.
That's definitely what I'm leaning towards.
And it seems like he's really braggy about it, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it feels like he's probably the right guy serving time for this. Right now he's on death row in Harris County, Texas. They're talking about reopening his case because of the coerced confessions from the other people.
Get a mistrial, get out and do it again.
Yeah, probably. I mean, open his strip
You know
club
how
or
it
whatever.
goes, right? Finally open his titty bar.
Yeah, like Rick's Cabaret, Prible's Cabaret.
Pribbles, yeah.
But I mean, even if they get it overturned or whatever, he still robbed 6 banks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
true.
He still
Like,
did a shit ton
yeah.
of drug activity, and stealing drugs is a definite no-no.
Yeah, and he does seem the type. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And he looks like a freaking creeper. I mean, he does not
Really?
look like somebody I'd be like, I think I want to sleep with this guy in the bathroom while my husband's downstairs.
Nah,
Like,
Mr.
you know what I mean?
Pribble. Yeah.
No, he's quite a freaking.
What's his
creep.
first name? I'll have to look him up when I go.
Ronald Jeffrey Prible.
Ronald. Oh, that's right. Ronald Jeffrey Prible.
Yeah, it's just a shame that these poor kids had to get wrapped up in this crap, you know, regardless
Yeah.
of what their dad was doing or their mom was even doing, if she was doing anything.
No, it's terrible. That's why mine was so tough too. It's when kids die. That's hard, you know.
It's not fair.
But we're about the details here.
Yep, unfortunately.
That's what we got to do.
Yeah, but that's the story of Cheese Dick Ronald Pribble.
So we'll call the episode that, right?
Yeah, cheese dick.
Yeah.
Two
So
cheese dicks.
seriously, I mean, they really were. So Mr. Prible, and of course my guy, good old Billy Suff. So
And they're both still alive. And where's your guy?
San Quentin, California,
San Quentin.
death row,
This guy is here in
representing.
Harris County.
Yeah, both terrible places to be locked up for shit like
Yeah.
that.
That's why you don't kill babies and stuff.
You would think
Or,
that,
you know,
that would
anybody,
be.
whatever.
You would think it would be a no-brainer for
One of the first things they teach you, I think, when you're growing up is like, hey, stop killing. Like, killing people is bad things. Doing drugs is bad things. Like, be responsible. Brush your teeth.
Yeah,
It's in the top 5
that's
for sure.
don't kill people and brush your teeth.
Yep.
All right, well there you have it for episode 11. Those are our guys, right?
Cheese dicks.
Cheese Dicks, Billy Suff, and Mr. Pribble. Always, we appreciate you guys so much. We've just hit 5,000 followers on our Facebook page.
Yes.
As of recently, I don't know, a few days back. So we're super stoked about that. Thank you guys so much. We will check us out on social media, wherever you're at, Facebook, Instagram, as well as our website and wherever you find your podcasts. We look forward to releasing some premium content here soon. I'm just going to go through some stories and stuff like that. So we can't wait to share that with you. But other than that, we will see you next week for episode 12.
Later, weirdos.